Hi there, everybody. This is another business spotlight, and I'm really delighted and very excited because we like to bring quite unique businesses to show the full sphere of our Scottish business climate of Scotland to you. And today we're talking from Matt, just Matt, at Aquaticvets, who has got a really interesting business, a very interesting journey into business that he's willing to share with us too. And it has a massive impact on Scottish economy in terms of how he supports the Scottish business as well. So we'll touch on all of these. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
You're very welcome. So we just want to understand for the viewers and our listeners, however they're engaging in this today, what do you do in aquatic
So
vet?
I'm a specialist aquatic veterinary surgeon. So I basically am your bog standard vet, but I do things a bit differently because I only look at fish, and not even anything other than fish in water. So what we specialize is in fish management, and we look at mainly aquaculture, so all the fish that you eat. But we do some ornamental fish as well, so some public aquaria, some private ponds, the odd goldfish. But the vast majority is aquaculture, and we do that in Scotland, but also abroad in Americas.
And tell us about your journey into your own business and, how you got into this industry in the first instance.
Yeah, so when I joined vet school, if we go way back, I was actually I used to be allergic to any furry animals. So when I went to vet school, I thought that's going to be a problem. I had sort of grown out the allergy, but I hadn't really grown out sort of the interest in other species, because I was only allowed as a child to have fish and reptiles because you didn't get allergic to that. So I basically from year one at vet school, I started looking at fish. I thought reptiles would be my goal, and I didn't even know you could do fish. But through some student organizations, I learned that you could do fish. So during my vet education, I actually worked with a lot of koi, the Japanese carp, and sort of from then on, sort of the interest grew. Did my PhD in Stirling, Scotland, and sort of never left. I moved within the industry, and sort of during COVID, the company I was working for at the time wanted me to move to sales, which I thought, well, as a veterinary surgeon, that's not really my bag. So I basically thanked them for the opportunity, but we parted ways in that sense, and I started Aquaticvets sort of 2 years ago now. So.
And how did you find setting up your business in this very unique area? How did you grow a client base?
Yeah, so I was always planning it, but it was always a 5-year plan. It wasn't really that I was sort of moving any closer to that 5-year deadline. So it was a bit of a push off a big cliff, and once you're falling, you might as well just learn how to fly. So because I had been in the industry and sort of prolific like myself through societies and a few other memberships I had a large client sort of understanding. I had quite a few people I knew in the industry, so I also knew where the gaps in the market were, and where there was need and how to fill those needs. So the first 2-3 weeks were sort of spent on just a lot of stuff on the whiteboard, and then sort of implementing that plan, and sort of changing it as you go along, because not a lot of them, or some of the ones I had written on my whiteboard were not for moving, but some were, and some that were less obvious that were you just get any work thrown at you what you were taking. But we got to the point now where we can sort of more go to the points where we really want to do the work we want. So
that's great. So did you just say there you're in a position to pick and choose the work you want to do?
Well, not that sort of. I don't
Not
have to
quite there.
don't have to kick them out of the door yet. But we are sort of aiming. I'm approaching jobs that I like, and that's sort of that's quite pleasant. So
Yeah, good. And you mentioned Japanese carp. So I lived in Japan when I was 17, and I had a sensei that looked after us, and his favorite thing to do was fish.
Yeah.
And he always showed us the picture of the carp or the other Japanese fish that he'd spent fishing. Well, how do you vet, or how do you help the health of fish in that, a Japanese carp or anything like that?
Yeah, so especially the carp, so they're in water, and that's the main factor. You have to maintain the water, which a lot of people will say. But there's a few parasites that bother them, recurring parasites. So what you do is you can take a scraping of the skin, because the mucus, the slimy bit, that's where all the parasites are. So you can take a bit of that and sort of look under the microscope. Some viral infections that you have to take some more diagnostics for, but you normally know, because they usually cause quite high mortality. But it's the principles of looking after are the same as for dog and cat. It's just the technology and what you're looking for is a bit different, and how you resolve it. But the principles stand, that you just try to identify the cause of what's bothering them, and then sort of eradicate that by treatment.
And I'm not sure if I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. I mean, you hear about bird flu epidemics, swine flu, etc. And I know there was some decrease in the availability of salmon in recent years. I remember somebody, I don't know if it was in the shops or whatever. Do fish have a similar kind of propensity or issues with epidemics or pandemics?
Yeah, so there are a few diseases that are sort of the same level. So they're called notifiable diseases. So influenza, the chicken viruses, they are sort of notifiable. What you have, there are similar diseases in fish that you would basically have to clear the whole farm. That hasn't happened. There were, I think, a few other reasons at the time for low availability, but that bothers the industry. You have to maintain high consistency in your production. That's what we try to help as well, because what you often see is that drop in production can be linked to disease outbreaks as well. There's some really good examples of this in shrimp industries in Asia, where you could basically see a sort of introduction of new diseases, and you see a sharp decline in the production of shrimp, because especially there the farmers can pick and choose what crops they grow, and they might just switch to rice instead of but yeah. So there are definitely big diseases and consequences that we try to keep out of the fish pens.
Great. And we're in a crucial point in our environmental concern. Food chain, there's a lot of concern about moving and eating fish. Can I ask your philosophy and how that impacts Scotland, the economy, and any comment you're interested to make?
Yeah, so there's a lot of false truths about sort of salmon, and sort of the facts that they were sort of full of antibiotics and all that. In fact, the opposite is quite the truth. So if you are to eat fish, you're actually likely to have the lowest amount of antibiotic, because the use of antibiotics is only in those very circumstances that we don't have a vaccine for particular. Fish is a very young industry. And what they've done, so it only started in the 60s in the UK, a little bit before. It's been going on for ages in Asia, but in the sort of Western Hemisphere, it's quite a young industry. And what they've done, they adapted technology and new ideas rapidly. So what you see is that most salmons will have a lot of vaccines going through them. So 7-way vaccines, so 7 diseases in all in one vaccine. So we are very capable of controlling disease just through vaccination. So the amount of treatment used is a lot lower than other industries like pig, poultry. So that's something that's good. The other thing is if you like sashimi, I'm not a particular fan of sashimi.
I love sashimi.
Yeah, I've seen too many parasites in fish
Oh no,
to
do
like
you eat
sashimi.
fish?
I do eat fish, but I like to cook mine.
Okay.
And I'm also not a particular. I don't fish. I always sort of joke around that I have a lovely wife, and I don't have to spend all day sort of out chasing a fish. While I can just go to a fish farm and pick one from a pen. But the thing with cultured fish is that because we control the environment, we also control the parasites. So aquaculture is a very safe source for sashimi. So that's what you can see there as well. So yeah, definitely eat fish. You can eat it raw if you want, but I don't necessarily like the texture of it. So I like mine cooked.
Okay. So tell me, how do you vaccinate a salmon?
So in the old days, so there's a couple of principles. You can basically dip the young fish into a bath. So if they're below 1 gram, you can put them in a bath, and they absorb the vaccine. The other way to do it is to inject them. So the current production is that we hand vaccinate them. So there's a team of 4 or 8 people going through every fish and inject them. We anesthetize them, so we put them sort of in a sleep stage, and then we inject all the fish. But there are now sort of automated systems that you can actually, it's all done automatically. So there's cameras flipping them upside down and just making sure that they're injected in the right spot as well. So there's a lot of AI coming into that, which is the last 5-6 years that's coming through. So
That's fascinating. And how does that technology affect us in Scotland and how we farm fish?
I don't think it's a big vaccination was a niche market, and the reason to go to robotics is because people don't like to stand in the cold, because it's usually done in the winter. It's usually done by people from Spain or or other countries. It's not necessarily done by locals. And they just couldn't get the people to do that. So they've now moved to automation, and we do see that the accuracy of the automated systems can be actually improved compared to other hand options. So
Good. So, I mean, I find it really fascinating, bringing us back to a business level. And you
yeah.
know, as a business coach, there's always the argument that business is the same irrespective of the industry or the type of profession that you're doing, or the product. What has been your biggest learning in a business sense since you set up Aquaticvets?
It's all the things that they don't tell you about. So one, you have to get sort of some idea of accounting. I have an accountant, but you still have to sort of check what they're doing, and you do have to push them to, because you hear things. Well, why is Johnny around the corner allowed to buy a car of his company, and why am I not allowed? And that sort of things that is like, well, you do need to challenge them. You need to ask the right questions. And then there's the was it the ICO or something like the
Information Commissioner's Office? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about that. And then I'm employing my wife as well now, and now I have to set up a pension, and that's sort of, it's all that sort of, I'm really good at my job, but it's all the other stuff that I'm sort of very reluctant to learn, and sort of it's always taken me a lot more time to do those tasks because I don't really enjoy them. And as my accountant says, if you wanted to be an accountant, you would have been. So that's why I hire him. But it's all those things that nobody tells you about. It's like, because I didn't even know the ICO was actually real. I thought it was spam. It's like
I think a few people make that mistake, don't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
But that's the main thing, and it's constantly sort of looking ahead, and because you basically have your head down, trying to get to the end of the day, but then you don't have to get to the end of the day. You have to get to the end of the year, and making sure that you're either grow or at least keep the business that you have, and then sort of keep everybody happy. Because I think if you're standing still, you're going backwards. So you have to move forward to keep being relevant for one, and yeah. So
yeah, absolutely.
I enjoy that.
Good. And you mentioned AI, but what's the biggest opportunity in the industry that you work in the next 5 years?
So aquaculture is the biggest growing. It's called the Blue Revolution. So it's the quickest and biggest growing industry. So but it's a very peculiar industry as well, because the new tax in Norway came in, and that made a bit of a fuss. But the top 20 people, 10 of them, 10 of the richest people in Norway, and a lot of them are fish farmers. So you can make a lot of money in it. But then you can lose a lot of money in it as well, because not everything goes to plan. So RAS, so what they do is a recirculating aquaculture system. So what they do is they're going to take most of it out of the sea, or they're going to try and take a lot of the work out of the sea, because in the sea you don't have really control of an environment, because it basically just washes through. So anything that comes through with the tide, that's coming into your fish. So what they're doing is they're trying to control that in the RAS systems on land. But they have huge capital investments required for that, and they still haven't sussed the big problems out. So there's definitely some investment and some learning curves to be made there. But that will be where the industry is going to move, and that's where the biggest challenges, the biggest opportunities lie in that market. So
brilliant. And what would you say to any new business owner or somebody who's thinking about setting up business in any industry, or specifically in your industry? Is there any secret or any guidance or advice you would give them?
Well, there's plenty of work, so just get started. I think that's there's always advertisements. Aquaculture is a very small industry, so do not burn your bridges, because you will find that will bite you in the backside sooner or later. What we see is a lot of people, the same people, but they just move within the industry. So you'll come across the same people with sometimes even the same phone number, or a different phone number with a different person behind it. So that happens quite a lot. So, but there is definitely opportunity. There's especially for veterinarians, there is a lot of need for that. There's definitely more room for that, but you just need to get the skills into it. So but you only get the skills if you start. So
that's some sage advice. Get started.
Yeah,
it's great to know that it's an area where you can go and really hit the ground running, because there's demand. But I love the advice, don't burn your bridges. So few people understand that in business often, don't they? That your relationships in Scotland, we're a tight-knit community, and I'd imagine, as you've indicated, that it's certainly in fisheries, it's a very small tight, where everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. So brilliant.
Oh yeah. No, that's it. And if you don't want to be a business owner, which I can understand, because there's a high risk and people not necessarily want that. Some people just want to work 9 to 5, although that sometimes doesn't work in the fishing industry, because animals don't really work 9 to 5 either. But yeah, that's it. There's definitely opportunity. Make the mistakes for somebody else, and then make some more when you're working for yourself. So
great. Well, Matt from Aquaticvets, thank you very much for your time.
no
And
problem.
I look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Thank you.